So now our topic is here DTP, Dynamic Trunking Protocol, DTP. So earlier we did lab, it's SVI switch virtual interfaces. I have configured for this interface as a trunk. So a running configuration, you can check, verified running configuration. These are the access ports and this is a trunk port, fourth one. And same configuration enabled. Show running configurations. The configuration of the switch. Switch to configuration. So running configuration. Switch to configuration is now the main switch configuration will take here. Same and let's say multi-layer switch and it's multi-layer switch configuration. In this multi-layer switch, we have connected two interfaces for this interface and for these interfaces. In between, guess which protocol we should have to use here. That is trunk. Because here we have a multiple VLAN information. Here we have a multiple VLAN information. So that is the reason we should have to make sure this is a trunk port. So if trunk port we configured, there it will be shown. Though in show running configuration is not showing means it is we haven't configured. So I'll remove this command here from this. It's fast Ethernet 0/4 and no switch port mode trunk. No switch port mode trunk in between. And same thing I'll do here also. I will remove this command. Zero by 4. I have removed. No, the reachability is gone. The reachability is gone. In between switches. In between switches, the reachability is gone. If you want to check, yes, you can check it. Because I have removed the trunk port in between. So DTP, Dynamic Trunking Protocol. The trunking can be done dynamically through negotiation. So dynamic desire, we have a two modes here, dynamic desirable and dynamic auto. First, we'll check DTP in these switches. show DTP. Yes, DTP is by default enabled and sending hello packets every 30 seconds and dead timer is 5 minutes. It's 30 seconds. So we'll take it as a new fresh switch here. So DTP is enabled or not, we'll check. It's a new switch. Just go through the give the command enable show DTP. Yes, DTP is enabled, but zero interfaces. Now here you can check one interface is connected. This is the interface. So by default, it is DTP is enabled. Negotiation is done. And which mode? On which mode the DTP is working. So interface trunk. Before that, we'll check the trunking. No trunking in between. The trunk is not enabled in between the switches. The trunk is not between. If you can take one more switch from here, we'll take and we'll connect together and we'll check it now for these two switches. Show DTP. Now earlier zero interfaces, just I have configured one interface, so it is that is the reason it's showing one. If you want to take one more switch, configure it like this. It will take 30 seconds. Now listening state and to spanning type, learning state, listening to learning, and now move to the forwarding state. It will take again 15 seconds. That is it. Now came to forwarding state. You can check here. Learning to forwarding state. That is the reason the ports are showing down. Now check show DTP messages. Show DTP. Earlier only one and now it is showing two. But try to check the interface trunk. Any trunk is enabled? No, not yet. So by default, the interface is dynamic auto mode. If you configure the dynamic desirable D, if this port is DA, if this port is DA, we have a modes dynamic auto, dynamic desirable. Just we discussed dynamic auto, dynamic desirable. So we have a desirable mode and we have a auto mode. If desirable mode to back to trunk, it will become a trunk. Always wants to become a trunk. It is trying to become a trunk. But whenever you are in dynamic auto mode, how we'll check the dynamic auto or dynamic desirable mode? I'll show you the command and desirable mode send and reply the DTP messages. It will be send and reply the messages. When dynamic desirable. This is a dynamic desirable. And this one is a dynamic desire auto. And it becomes a trunk if the port on the other switch is set to trunk. If we enable other port, will create as a manually trunk. In this lab, we created here manually trunk. Understood? We created here manually trunk. So that is the reason auto negotiation done in between the switches. Again, you can prove it. So check the trunk, show interface, trunk, no trunking, and just configure here trunk, config terminal, interface, fast Ethernet 0 by 4, and switch port mode trunk. Just one command. Now port is went down. For STP, it will be take 30 seconds. Show spanning tree. How many VLANs are available? That many it will be STP will work. So all are, so this port is the fast Ethernet. It's now still learning state. It's a learning state. Now move to the win. It went to the show spanning tree. It will be forwarding state. It's a green color. You can check here. Still negotiation happening in multi-layer switch. Show interface trunk. The trunk mode is auto. I will check. Show interface fast Ethernet 0 by 1 and switch port mode. And it's a auto dynamic auto, and this is the this port is here you can check show interface trunk. The trunk is done on mode. We did it is a on mode. So show interface fast Ethernet 0 by 4 and switch port mode. Trunk is enabled manually. So here we have a, if you are enabling the mode is on, then also trunk will be found. And if both the ports, this is a dynamic desirable, if dynamic desirable, guys, understood or not? Just I have enabled the manually trunk. So documents I'll show you, then easy to understand. So we have a modes of trunk, dynamic desirable, apart from the dynamic auto, apart from that manually we are assigning trunk port or manually assigning access port. So whenever you are enabling the trunk, if that port is we manually enabling trunk to set the trunk, then the port is dynamic desirable also no issue, dynamic auto also no issue, then trunk will be found. And if the auto mode is there, that it will be trying to form the neighborship, trying to form the trunking. But when if opposite side dynamic desirable is there, otherwise it will set as a trunk. So two switches. So this is a fourth mode at link configuration trunk manually. We have to configure manually the port still negotiation trunking with port on the other end also, other end of link also. Negotiation still it will be wait. So configuration access manually. The port is a user port in single VLAN. It's a single VLAN. So whenever the access port is there, it won't form the trunking. So in between. So that is mean in this segment, no trunk. Trunk will not form always. If we configure manually here, what trunk, then here auto mode, then trunk will be formed. Here we have, I will show you something. Then you can easily understand. So what I will do for dynamic trunking, I'll show you step by step. I'll show you step by step So I'm taking here two switches, one and two, and in between two switches, connected port, and both are the off. Will on the switch now. Now forget about this topology. We'll understand what is DTP. So first enable the switch. So show DTP. Yes, we have a DTP messages going and receiving, sending and receiving. DTP messages are sending and receiving, both the switches. DTP messages are sending and receiving. With this command, we'll verify it. And now we'll check which mode is available in the switch for this interface. So interface fast Ethernet 0 by 1. The mode is, we'll check the entire configuration. Switch port, with the help of switch port, we'll verify the L2 configuration. Which mode? Administrative mode is auto. Just take the dynamic auto. This mode is now dynamic auto. Switch port mode is dynamic auto for this interface. Now check here, enable. So interface fast Ethernet 0 by 1 and switch port mode dynamic auto. Here also same thing. So I'll copy here. This mode also dynamic auto. Now verify it in between trunking is enabled or not. So interface trunk. So no show interface trunk, no trunking is formed in between. So even though switch port is enabled, the name is fast Ethernet 0 by 1. With this command, I am explaining what is the purpose of this command. So operational mode is statically access. If whenever the port is a dynamic auto mode, the port it will be act as like access. Statically, it will be act as access. Even though we have a encapsulation tagging mode that is enabled. Encapsulation is by default in L2 switches. In packet tracer, dot one queue is enabled. And negotiation trunking is on. So if dynamic auto mode also is there, then it is trying to form the negotiation. What is the negotiation? The trunking negotiation. The trunking negotiation. So access mode VLAN 1. So by default VLAN 1 is configured. So that is the reason VLAN 1 is showing here. Trunking native VLAN 1. With the native VLAN, the untagged traffic will be passed, and once the receive the destination, it will be remove and add whichever the tagging information, whichever the required VLAN ID, it will be added. That is what native VLAN. So why is VLAN is none, nothing is there. Trunking VLAN is enabled for all the VLANs, enabled for all the VLANs, and pruning leave it that. These are the switch port modes, but just focus on which mode is right now, dynamic auto. Now we'll change the mode dynamic desirable. We'll change the mode dynamic desirable. How to change the mode now? First enter the switch port mode. Switch port mode interface fast Ethernet 0 by 1 and switch port mode. Here we can make the access. Again, if access means no trunking will be formed in between. If you enable trunk manually, you are doing and then it will form the trunking in between. Otherwise, you can use dynamic desirable, dynamic also dynamic. We have a two modes, auto and desirable. If you are giving the question mark, we have the two modes, auto and desirable. So if auto are by default enabled auto, so no required for if you are giving the auto also no trunking will be formed. If you try to give the auto also, no trunking will be formed. So we are not giving auto, so we are giving desirable. Now check. One mode is dynamic, desirable. I have configured. For this interface is dynamic desirable. And this is a so here in between no trunk. No trunk form. We'll try to check now for this case. Any changes are there? If mode we changed dynamic auto and here dynamic design. Sorry, auto only. Here mode is auto only. I have not changed any mode. We verify. If you want, you can verify the mode also. Show interface. So you can check dynamic auto mode only. Still administrative mode is at auto only. Here you can check which port mode dynamic desirable. Dynamic desirable. Which port mode. Now verified. Show interface trunk. The trunk is formed. The trunk is formed in between switches. So here the trunk is forming. If you configure here on also, on means manually you are configuring trunk. Then also it will be form trunk. Here which mode? If it is dynamic auto also is there. Then also it will be form the trunk. If you want, you can verify also trunk. In earlier lab, the same issue only we got. The same happen only. I haven't assigned here then anything. So that is the reason automatic the trunking will be formed in between. So trunk will be formed. And here on, in this case, no trunk. And one more case also is there. If we configure this port as a access, if how we'll configure? So in this port, we'll configure access port. Switch port mode is access. Config terminal interface fast Ethernet 0 by 4 0 by 1 sorry switch port mode access. So interface fast Ethernet 0 by 1 switch port. So statically we did access mode. Statically we configured. By default, statically access only. We configured again. This is a statically access. So here mode is access and this mode is dynamic desirable only. Dynamic, sorry, auto, not desirable. Dynamic auto. Then check the trunk will be formed or not. So interface trunk. So no trunk. Here also, in this case also no trunk. So only when the trunk will be formed, if we manually enable dynamic desirable and dynamic auto. If dynamic desirable here and dynamic auto here, that case also form. What I mean to say, if this is a dynamic auto mode and here is this switch is dynamic reverse only, then also it will be formed. Trunk will be formed. So in real time, will always will disable the negotiation. How the negotiation will be disabled only because see, it's security reason. I haven't assigned here in this case no trunking, even though the trunk is forming. You can verify it. Show interface trunk. The trunk is forming through auto negotiation. N means negotiation. With the help of negotiation, the trunking is forming. So by default, the dynamic trunking protocol was disabled in real time. Config terminal. It will be safe or not? You will see. If you are understand the concept, definitely you will get the answer. It is a secure or not. If we enable the negotiation is then doing, then it is secure or not. It will be secure or not. In this case, tell me. In this case, I haven't configured trunk. Just manually I have configured here. I have not configured in this page. So still you can verify it from your end also. So before that, I'll configure for this interface. Only one interface is trunk fast Ethernet 0 by 1. So I'll not configure in this fast Ethernet 0 by 2. I'll configure the opposite side. Enable config T interface fast Ethernet 0 by 4. So switch port mode trunk. Only I have enabled the trunking in this switch. So I have not enabled the configuration. If you want, check. Show running configuration. No assigning anything for these interfaces. Such just I plug it cables. So negotiation is done. If I configured no negotiation for these interfaces, so no trunk will be formed. So in real time, we'll do no negotiation only. Negotiation is done. Still, VLAN is not sharing because it is trying to up schema. Not check. The VLAN information also receiving, sending and receiving. Negotiation is done automatically with the help of auto mode is auto. N means its negotiation is done the with the help of DTP. N means whenever you will see. So here you can check show interface trunk. So here N is not available. What I'll do, if you want to ping, yes, you can ping also. Different VLAN. Yes, we can able to ping. So DTP messages, this DTP messages information, and the DTP how the enable will be happen. If one switch mode is dynamic auto and dynamic auto, that port will be access port only. And dynamic auto, dynamic desirable, the trunk will be formed. And dynamic auto and opposite side is manually we configured a trunk. So trunk will be formed. And dynamic auto and dynamic access mode, port is access. So that port is always access only. If dynamic desirable, so any mode, the trunk will be formed. DD also is there, DEA also is there. And if you configuring manually, say any port also is there, that dynamic it will be connected and limited connectivity. And access need, the port always act as access only. How will enable with the help of these commands? Just move to the desirable and switch port mode, dynamic auto or dynamic desirable. You can give both things. Just give the question mark, you'll get. If you don't want to negotiation, config terminal interface fast Ethernet 0 by 1 and so this is the command. No negotiation. Sys port, no negotiation. The command rejected configured between negotiation and dynamic state. So we have to rejected conflict between negotiation and dynamic state. The trunking is formed in between, so that is the reason it is rejected, I think. Dynamic status. So we'll remove from this end trunking form. Switch port interface fast Ethernet 0 by 4 and we'll remove this command. Then we'll apply the command no negotiation. So if I want to know switch port mode trunk, switch port mode, switch port trunk, encapsulation dot one q, then switch port no negotiation. So conflict between negotiation. Show interface fast Ethernet 0 by 1 and switch port mode. So the reason behind is showing the error if this native negotiation is on. This is what we should have to disable. Okay, I'll check this command and how it will work. I'll show you the next layer. But DTP concept everyone understood or not?
Yes, Halim.
Yeah, this is a DTP, all about DTP, and we configured the multi-layer switch also, and multi-layer switch, two different VLANs, how to communicate to each other. We configured the same thing. And if you want to enable trunking in between, so we have a two protocols like earlier we discussed: config terminal interface fast Ethernet 0 by 1, and we have to take it as a switch port mode trunk. It won't take, it has taken because we earlier we configured the negotiation done and check the same interface for the opposite salas, and interface fast Ethernet 0 by 2, and switch port mode trunk, and it is rejected the command because of behind one reason is there: the encapsulation. We have to enable the encapsulation mode. The encapsulation mode is auto, so trunking is not forming. So that is the reason trunk is not forming. So we have to enable the encapsulation mode. Encapsulation mode. So that, so switch port, select the trunk now, and which encapsulation? We have two types of encapsulation. One is ISL. ISL is Cisco proprietary, and one more is the dot one q. But here we'll check only one encapsulation mode only we'll get. Encapsulation mode, here we are getting the encapsulation dot one q only. Cisco also refer to us use dot one q because it's having the 4-bit size is 4 only. So we'll use dot one q. Now enable this trunk. We configured earlier interface trunk, switch port mode trunk. It is rejected earlier. You can verify from here. I have tried to configure the trunk. It has rejected. Now try to configure. It's approved now. Now check show interface trunk. Sorry, show interface trunk. Now it is showing no aggression. An N is not there. Now verified. No N in between. Show interface trunk here also. So we'll configure this switch negotiation interface fast Ethernet. So switch port mode interface fast Ethernet 0 by 4, and switch port no negotiation. This command is working here, but in L2 switches, L3 switches, this command is not working. No negotiation. If we configure the no negotiation, does that mean the trunk we should have to enable manually? So I'll remove the command. So running configuration. Show running configuration here from here. I'll remove this command. I'll remove this command. Copy interface fast Ethernet 0 by 4, and no negotiation. I have configured. The command is rejected because no negotiation happen. So once the trunk is formed in between, so this command is not working out actually. The trunk is forming in between. So we'll take the new switches which are, so we'll check here, enable, so running configuration. So which port mode is access. We'll power off the switches and we'll power on. So configuration entire thing on config T interface fast ethernet 0 by 1 and switch port no negotiation enable. So this command is rejected. Will now will use as a opposite side is auto is there. So will configure manually trunk here. Config T interface fast ethernet 0 by 1 and switch port mode trunk same command. It is rejected. Why it is taken then? Here it is applied. Why it is has applied? So the command of this command useful for the negotiation is we are off turn it off like we are no with the help of this command no negotiation means it is turn off the negotiation. So this is all about the DTP. Do you have any questions in DTP? We'll check the negotiation part. But DTP, its help, we will not encourage in real time. We will not encourage in real time because negotiation is done by manually. So that is the reason. So always the negotiation is likewise turn it off in real time. No negotiation. So running configuration. This is where it will be happen. Negotiation is no negotiation. Manually will configure the trunk. Manually will configure the trunk in real time.